Hello, welcome to my office. So, this mindful, I've not decided if I want to say mindful Mondays or mindset Mondays. Let me know what you think. I just like having a wee theme, a wee something, but it's always going to be about mindset and mindfulness. I mean, I could change the Thursday and just make it Thoughtful Thursdays. I know, I love a wee theme. So, the thing I wanted to talk about today was actually one, I got inspiration from someone for this because it's something that I've never spoke about online before, and I've known it's an issue with people, but I've actually never thought to address it. So it's one that kind of, it was almost like a light bulb moment when this lady was talking about it that was like, oh, actually that's a really, really common thing and actually would do some good if we have a conversation about it. So you're in my wee office space just now. Behind you is the studio. Maybe I'll give you a wee swivel so you can see. Studio. Beautiful sunshine. I'm a biddy. And basically, when you have a call with me, this is what it looks like. This is the exact place you'll catch me. Most of the time it's with a bun, but today I washed my hair, so there we go. But I had a conversation with a lady who's decided to work with me, and she's interesting because she's not the norm actually, but she's talking about something that's very, very common, and that was the fact that she's been doing a style of movement for a really long time, and it's really worked for her up until now. So she's been doing HIIT. Sorry, I got a phone call there, and now my floor's so reflective that it's making me look very ethereal and it's blinding me, so I'm just going to move this over a wee bit. I'm sure I can edit that. That's better. Now you can see all my wires in the background. That's fine. So, this lady, I'll get back to what I was saying. She was doing HIIT. HIIT was working for so long, and then it stopped. It didn't stop working for her, but she's not seeing huge progressions for her muscle tone, and she's kind of like getting a bit meh with it. And the interesting thing about her, which is different, is she done HIIT that morning before she spoke to me. So she's still doing that way of moving, but she knows I need to move in a different way. So she's looking for yoga type stuff, calisthenics, and maybe a bit of animal flow and all that kind of stuff. We were chatting about that. So, and a bit of the strength training, weight training. So she knows that she needs to pivot the way she's moving, and she's still moving that way, which is interesting because most people don't do that. Most people will get tired of a way of moving, but it used to work for them, so they'll just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. So they're mentally done with it, they're a bit bored of it, but they have the discipline maybe to keep doing it. Or they're worried if they stop doing it, they'll stop all form of movement and they'll stop their progress. So keep doing it, they'll not listen to their body, they'll not listen to little niggles going on, or the boredom side of it, and then they will get injured. So usually one group of people will get injured, another group of people will get bored and just stop, and they'll just be like, oh, I'm done with that. So obviously, because I'm done with HIIT, I'm done with all fitness, I'm out of my fitness mojo, they'll stop for a few months to a year, and then they'll try and get back into that same style of fitness and hit a bit of a wall with it where their body doesn't accept it. Maybe there's lots of niggles going on, maybe an actual injury happens, maybe they don't recover as well, or they just don't feel motivated to do it. So then they think, right, I'm obviously not meant to get fit, or I'm not a natural mover or a gym bunny or whatever. So they'll move away from it. The interesting thing about this lady is she knows she needs to pivot, and she's about to do it in transition quite smoothly, which is unusual. You don't normally see that. So right away I was like, hats off. That's good. But for most people, they don't have that level of awareness, and funnily enough, she is a therapist, so she's very self-aware. So she's very, very self-aware and could recognise, okay, this is happening, what do I need to do to change this? Whereas most people will think, if I stop now, I'm lazy. If I stop now, I'm weak. If I have this niggle, I'll just push through and it should get better. And they'll keep doing that same form of movement. Now, I was kind of talking about HIIT there, but it could be yoga. It could be the same type of yoga flow over and over and over again. And a lot of people will then get, maybe not repetitive strain, some people do, but they'll have an imbalance in their musculature, and it's amazing how your body will tell you, or your brain will tell you before your conscious mind will tell you. So you'll start to get bored. start to get niggly. You'll start to feel quite, what's the word? Not resentful. Resistant, that's it. You'll start to feel quite resistant to that way of moving. And people do that naturally, and a lot of people, especially if you are someone that is quite self-motivated or you're used to just pushing yourself through things, maybe your work life or your family life is very much just go on and because things are busy. So maybe you don't have that space or that level of awareness to know, do you know what? I need to change what I'm doing. Or maybe because HIIT or MetaFit or, Body Pump, Body Attack, that's the thing to do. So that's the thing for weight loss, and that's the only thing. So a lot of people get stuck in one of those boxes. So what I want to say to people is, has there been a point on your journey where you have ignored your body, you've ignored how mentally stimulated you are, i.e. you've got really bored, and have you decided instead that you've been lazy or your body is not genetically right to move the way some people move? And has it been because you've been doing the one form of fitness or the one style of fitness? The same tempo, the same movement patterns, the same muscle groups. So just let me know in the comments, guys, if that's something you recognise in yourself. And if that's something that you're having a wee light bulb moment of, oh yeah, I thought I was just being lazy. Now the funny thing is, I actually know a bodybuilder, I know a powerlifter, I know a yoga teacher who have all hit that same thing where their body and their mind, body or mind sometimes as well, hits a plateau where it's not progressing any better, and in fact you're kind of overdosing on the same kind of movement. And usually I actually know quite a few people who have stepped away from their discipline because of injury and then went completely the opposite way. Like I know a few bodybuilders that now do MMA and BJJ. Is it BJJ? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Yeah, BJJ. Just making sure I've got that right. Anyway, so you want, if the professionals, if the athletes are also having to do that kind of pivot because they overdose in the same movement, then the same is true for you. If it's like MetaFit, if it's spin, if it's running, if it's like the same thing over and over again, and you get annoyed at yourself, your mind for getting bored, or you get annoyed at your body for not being strong enough to withstand that level of repetition. I think one important thing to have in mind is the fact that we are ever growing bodies that are very, multidimensional in the way that we move, and we're not really meant for repetition. And I don't mean that you can not do loads of press-ups or loads of squats or all that kind of stuff, but if that's the only way you're training, you maybe need to look at a different tempo. And I even mean for yoga, I know a lot of people can hail yoga as the longevity kind of movement pattern, but actually I know a lot of people with repetitive strain issues or imbalances in their body because they're doing the same types of vinyasa, they're doing the same types of movement. So if you fall into that category, don't think, because one thing I found really hard is yoga, I started to overdose on yoga in the terms of my body started to, it felt great and then it felt worse, and it's because my body neurologically and in terms of like the same muscles that I was training over and over again, they were just not ready for that level of repetition. And that was coming from someone who was thinking they were being quite smart and keeping things quite balanced, but actually I needed to have so many different tempos in movement. So for some people it might be that they want to apply some sort of dance or martial arts or something that has quite fast reactions, but also something that's slower like mobility, FRC, yoga, as well as heavier load stuff like weight training. So you might want to have loads of different flavours, and for some people they might hear this and think, well, then you're going to be master of none and jack of all trades. If your goal isn't to be a powerlifter, if your goal isn't to get really strong at one movement or one type of performance, like if you don't need to improve your performance with like a set thing, then you don't need the repetition. If your goal is to like lose weight, tone up, have longevity, have as much freedom from pain as possible in your joints, then you do not need to follow a program that is repetitive. In fact, that's the worst thing. A lot of my clients come for me for toning up, for weight loss, for rehab, and the thing that we do is, although we have a progressive program, we also change things up so their body and their mind isn't getting bored with the same thing over and over again, and then it means they're less likely to get any form of injury from that as well. So I think I'm being a bit controversial here. So the thing that I really want to drive home is if you're not running a marathon, if you're not following a particular competitive sport, and if you're not doing something like powerlifting where you have to get strong at that one movement, then you don't need to really have a repetitive way of training. In fact, your training can change from year to year. Don't be afraid. Like if you are a runner, if you are a yogi, if you are into CrossFit, if you're into weight training, don't be afraid to have a bit of that still in your routine, but put other flavours in as well. That's totally fine. If you saw the way I train, it changes from season to season, it changes from year to year, and I follow what still makes me feel good, it makes me feel strong, so I'm not plateauing, I'm not overdosing on the same movement pattern over and over. So hopefully that's helped today, guys. Let me know in the comments if any of this rings true for you, if you think you might have had a repetitive injury or an injury from a specific sport or movement, or if you have like a persistent niggle that keeps coming back, let me know, and I will talk to you again soon, guys.